All right, Bailey peeps. How's your quarantine going? Having lots of fun? Lots of learning time? Having fun being trapped at home? Oh boy, well, let's learn some plate tectonics, shall we? Okay, so I'm still trying to learn how to use this screencast thing. It likes to make my face disappear every time I turn present. So this is the last time you're going to see me. But you can still hear me. Okay, let me get a cool little pointer. There we go. How's that for a cool pointer? Okay, plate tectonics. This is a pretty big lesson. So I'm gonna break it down into chunks. So let's get started, shall we? Plate tectonics. All right. So I could show you the Easter egg that I broke earlier, and has like all these different chunks in it, but my screen doesn't work and I ate it. So that's not really going to help us. So we're going to talk. So the crust of the earth, the outer layer of the earth has been broken. It's been broken into 12 major plates. There's a lot of little plates, but there's 12 major ones which move in various directions depending on the convection currents inside the earth, and they make them go in all kinds of directions. The plate motions causes them to collide. They crash into each other. They pull apart. They scrape against each other. And each type of plate motion causes a characteristic set of earth structures like mountains, volcanoes, and earthquakes. So the way these plates move around, they shape our earth. Okay, so here's the theory. There was once upon a time, there was this guy by the name of Alfred Wegner. He's one of my favorite guys. He, even though everybody told him he was crazy, he still stuck to his opinions, and they found out he was right many years later. But anyways, he came to the idea of that the continents were actually moving, and people went, "Are you kidding me? The continents are moving. What do you do again? Oh, you're a weatherman. The weatherman says the continents are moving." He came up with this idea called the continental drift theory. And he wrote these books and he put them out there, and everybody says, you're a weatherman and you're crazy and we shouldn't listen to you. But he's like, okay, well, if I'm crazy, then explain these 5 things. So he came up with 5 ideas of 5 evidence that he called proof, but nobody else believed him. Okay, he said one, well, the continents fit like a puzzle. If the continents aren't moving, then why do they look like they fit like a puzzle piece? Like, you can kind of see how South America kind of fits right into Africa right there. Is that a coincidence? The whole world says yes, but Alfred Wegner said no, they used to actually be together. And actually, he put the whole world back together and called it Pangea. So once upon a time, all of the continents were together in one big gigantic piece, and it was called Pangea. And then he says that somehow they broke apart and now they look like today's world. And all the people said, "You're crazy." Huh. And he's like, well, I guess I could have saw that coming. He's like, okay, number 2, rock types and structures. If you actually look more closely at, say, South America and Africa, if you put the pieces together, the rocks over here on this side are actually the same type of rocks on that side. He was saying, they were formed at the same time and in the same place, but something split them apart. And well, here we are. And all the people said, "You're crazy. You're still crazy." It's like, okay, great. Well, if you do put up this piece with that piece, along with other pieces in the world, not only do the rocks match up, but the fossils match up. So the same types of animals that lived over here lived over here. So not only were the rocks the same, but the animals were the same. That's kind of weird. That's kind of weird. Usually, places have their own animals. Like you wouldn't find the same animals here as you would over here unless they were together. So he's like, the rocks match up, the fossils match up. What do you think about that? And then, of course, the people all said, "You're crazy." It's like, okay. Well, what about number 4? If I put South America together and I put Africa together, not only do the rocks match up, not only do the animals match up, but you put a mountain back together again. It's like somebody took a lightsaber, went, and cut a mountain in half and split them all apart. Not only do, like, if you put this piece here with that piece, the animals match up, but it's like a mountain comes together again. It's like a mountain has been cut in half, and when you put the pieces back together, they fit perfectly, and the mountain comes back together again. Now that is pretty crazy. Even if you look under the water, it matches. Above the water, it matches. This is like way too many coincidences going on here. And the people said, "You're crazy." Yeah, they said it again. They said, "You're crazy." And he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, paleoclimate's then." And they're like, what does that mean, weatherman? It's like, well, okay. Well, if the continents have always been where they are, like if Africa's always been here, and Europe has always been here, and South America's always been here, and they've never moved, why is there evidence of different climates around? For example, you can look at Africa and see in the mountains, which the equator is always hot. Now, you can look back in the history of the world and see there was ice ages and so on, but Africa has pretty much never been hit. It's always super hot near the equator right here. No matter what ice age you're in, it's always hot here. Always. So if it's always been here, why is there evidence that glaciers have been in Africa? It's never cold on the equator ever, 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 ever. So how is it possible that there's evidence of glaciers in Africa if it's always been hot? And Alfred Wegner said, well, you know what? It hasn't always been on the equator. It's actually been in the South Pole. Like, check out Africa. Africa was used to be down here. That's kind of crazy. And if it was down here, then it could get glaciers, and then it rises up here, and then melts, and then there's evidence of it. And all the people said, "You're crazy." Hmm. Poor Alfred Wegener. He actually died without actually proving his theories. Poor guy, but he stuck to his beliefs until he died. It's awesome. So he said, I am not crazy. Prove it with these five things. He said the continents fit together like a puzzle. He says the rocks match when you put the pieces together. The animals match when you put the pieces together. The mountains match up when you put the pieces together. And it explains why all of these different places that are currently hot used to be cold. Why they showed evidence of it being cold is because they didn't used to be on the equator. It is kind of a crazy thought, though, if you think about it. These big continents moving around. People couldn't believe it because they couldn't figure out what was causing these things to move. What they couldn't figure out is in the layers of the Earth, thanks, Miss Enoch, is that these big convection currents are causing these plates to move around and crash into each other. Okay, so here are the main plates that you guys need to know. There's a bunch of little plates, but I want you to know six. You have to know six. So, number one, Eurasia. Where did they come up with the name of Eurasia? What about this Europe? Yes, it's Europe and it's Asia. Europe and Asia make Eurasia. So all of this is Eurasia. Actually, if you know your continents, you'll probably be pretty good at this. Number two, hmm, that is the African plate. I hope that's in Africa. Bingo! We got Africa. We got the African plate. So we have the Eurasian plate. We have the African plate. And then we have the Indo-Australian plate. It has the Indian plate. It has the Australia plate. So there's number three. Number four, you have the Pacific plate. And then over here is the Pacific plate. Does that mean there's two Pacific plates? Is there two Pacific Oceans? No. My camera worked. I can show you on a piece of paper how this has been. Like, this is taking a round world and spread it out into a flat piece of paper. But if you actually took this edge over here and folded it around, it would meet this side over here and it would make one Pacific Ocean. So there's one Pacific plate. That's all a plate all by itself. And then you have five. Hey, look at us. Here's us. There's Austin right there. What plate are we in? Tick tock, tick tock, tick. The North American plate. We live in the North American plate. And then below us is the South American plate. So these are pretty easy, actually. I think if you know your continents, exception of Eurasia, but you can get that. Europe and Asia. There's all these other plates you don't need to know. The Cocos plate, the Nazca plate, the Juan de Fuca plate, the Indian plate, the Philippine plate. There's a bunch of different plates, but you need to know the 6 major ones. Okay, so what you need to do now is you need to stop this video. I know it was great. And you need to do the activity that follows it. Okay. Cheers. Have a good quarantine.